No, I got it. Sorry.
Wait, is your Wi-Fi even on?
I can get it through the phone.
Whoa!
No, I'll start the
Your presentation is getting pretty cool.
You don't want to do it live. You're going to start glitching out now.
We'll make it.
Seriously, I really like this presentation. It's so saturated.
Blue though, no?
Yeah? Oh!
Hey!
Yay!
Oh, cool.
3D pixels.
Alright, cool. Hello. We'll move over a little bit here.
Do you want to even try the microphone again?
I think it was mostly the passing around that.
Yeah.
Testing.
You just
Yeah,
need to
turn
turn
on.
it on.
Hello.
Hello!
Hi. No.
Hi.
You know you were just doing that with your voice, right?
Okay, hello. So I'm Chris Gregan from Snozbot, and Snozbot is a group of 3 kind of fairly experienced game developers. We've kind of been around the block, and I may have in the past done some of that free-to-play social game and stuff you were just talking about. Yeah, and I think Fungus might be part of me making amends for that part of my past. So anyway, right. Yeah, so we basically started Snozbot around October last year. It's myself, John O'Kane, and another guy, Ronan Pierce. And basically all the games you can see here, you can play them for free on our website. They're all just Unity web player builds. And you should definitely play John's game, Super Sword Shields. He's demoing it outside, and it's super addictive and good, and try it out. Yeah, so I guess, in October last year, we're doing an indie games company, and I wanted to figure out what sort of games I wanted to make, what sort of games people might want me to make that they might actually be interested in maybe buying at some point. And so I started with like a bunch of crazy ideas. I had this list of 300 ideas of games that I wanted to make, and I just started making some of them. And you can play them all on the website, but as I went along, I just kept kind of leaning towards sort of story-based things and narrative-based things. And I think it kind of culminated in this game, 404 Missing Page Detective Agency, which came out of the Dublin Twine Jam. And it's a Twine game, just HTML, pure text, and a bit of music, and I loved it and got good reviews. It was up on Indie Static and things like that. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to make story-based games, try and make a living out of this. And I guess my background is very much in like making games, but making kind of tools and kind of frameworks and game engines. And I've worked on 3D game engines and stuff in the past. And so I want to take some of that skill and bring it towards making these story-based games. And I guess I looked at the tools that are out there, and there's some great tools like Twine, RenPy, RPG Maker, things like that. But none of them kind of ticked all the boxes for what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be able to do stuff in Unity to get all the kind of the power of Unity. It's the reason all the indies are using Unity is because it gives you so much flexibility. And I guess these are the kind of genres of games that are sort of the inspiration for Fungus. So if you have any interest in any of these sort of genres at all, then Fungus might be a thing for you. So Twine, you've probably seen that. It's kind of choose your own adventure type text-based games in a browser. Interactive fiction, very text-heavy games with text-based choices. Visual novels, very popular in Japan. It's kind of like more like it's a lot of text, a lot of dialogue with like nicely painted backgrounds and animated sprites. Choose your own adventure games, like the old books where it was like go to page 30 to kill the orc, that kind of stuff. Text adventure games, get lamp, hit orc with lamp. That didn't work. Okay, try something else. Point and click adventure games, like Sam & Max and Data Tentacle, stuff like that. And then interactive comics, which they're becoming quite popular right now. With taking the comic format, taking that visual language, and then putting that into a game where you can actually affect the story and make decisions about what the characters do. So I'm actually working on 2 games with Fungus at the moment. The first is like a graphical version of the Missing Page Detective Agency. And the second one is this Space Farm 1995. So I'll give you a quick demo of that. And this is the live demo bit, which is going to go horribly wrong. So sorry in advance.
I'm excited. Why is there a button?
Let's try this. Please work. That's good. There you go. It actually worked. Okay, so this is Snozbot. He's a robotic turkey farmer who lives on the moon. And we've skipped a bit of intro here, but you can kind of see the elements. So you've kind of got like a text page here, and you click through to get the story. So it's kind of visual novel. You've seen it before. Camera pans, bright transitions, and then buttons. So you can kind of interact with the scene by just clicking on things. So, So I didn't want to have checkpoints in my game, so we came up with this idea of time travel pills. So if you get into trouble, you take a time travel pill and just go back to the previous scene. Okay, and you can just pick stuff up. This is a thing from another game we made called Snozbot Air. It's a priority boarding stick. Like an airline sells it to you to get onto a plane faster. Okay, good. And now we can head outside. Alright. And so then you can, kind of the point and click adventure stuff, I want to be able to still kind of explore like a nicely painted 2D world. So you can just pan around here. This all works on kind of mobile devices as well. And some nice little effects like a bit of parallax scrolling on there to give a bit of depth to the scene. And you can basically just click these arrows to move around. So that's kind of a typical kind of Fungus game, I guess. That worked. Yay! Alright, so I'll talk about Fungus a bit then. Design goals are to allow me to make crazy story-based games in Unity 3D. That was literally the point of Fungus. But I also want to kind of make a community thing, something that we can give to people to take and make their own crazy games with it. And I want to support people doing that, and I want to build a community around this. So kind of some of the design decisions were that it should be usable by a small kind of creative team. So, 1 or 2 people, if you can do a little bit of coding, maybe you've done a course in Unity or something like that, and you can draw and you can write, you should be able to make a Fungus game. Easy learning curve. I think most of the effort that's gone into it so far has been kind of throwing out solutions that were too difficult and doing it in an easier way that people will probably be able to pick up quicker. It's open source, MIT license, which means it's free. People seem to have a problem with understanding this, but it's free. You'll never have to pay me money for this. You can make games with it. It's free.
So how much do you pay for it?
Let me see, hang on. But like, basically you can take Unity 3D, the free version, Fungus, and you can make a game and you can publish it, release it yourself, and you don't even have to acknowledge the fact that you use Fungus.
Doesn't the MIT license allow other people to take it and sell it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can, yeah.
So they can literally just copy the whole thing and sell it?
They can, yeah. But then they're competing against free. So.
Depends how much. Depends if you have marketing budget.
Yeah, it's true. It's a risk, you're right.
Yeah.
So, but like.
Whatever.
We'll see what happens.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
It's all good.
We'll be the real guys doing it.
Yeah,
so it does need Unity 3D. We might look at porting it to other kind of game development systems later on, but for now it's enough work to just get it working with Unity 3D. And there's so much momentum behind it that it makes sense to use that. And you don't need any third-party plugins out of the box to use it either, so you don't need to get like 2D Toolkit or Engu or anything to use it. So you can be up and running in 5 minutes without spending any money, basically. And it's modular, so if there's some part of Fungus that you like, maybe you like the kind of the text writing thing, but you don't want any of the rest of it, then just take that bit out. And I've tried to make that nice and separable as well. And yeah, I want to build a community around this. And it's not just kind of fun, kind of crazy games. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity for educational games, serious games, training things for companies and stuff. Or even for companies that want to, like it costs money to develop cutscenes. So if you want to prototype your cutscenes in a kind of a cheaper way, you could use Fungus to kind of see if it's going to be fun or not, So people have started using Fungus, which is great. This kind of sort of started with Brian Duggan inviting me to DIT to talk to the students there about getting them to use Fungus for games that they were making for GameSpot. And 2 of the teams there came up with stuff, and both of them won prizes at GameSpot, which was really cool. So the first one's H2G2 Pixel Adventure, and it's kind of a visual novel using pixel art based on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and they go to the restaurants at the end of the universe. Very good. And then this is the Trials of the Dolphin King, and they got the best original digital art. And these guys, they were demoing earlier on, you might have seen it, but they took Fungus and transmogrified it into like a space combat trading game, which was, yeah. So that was nice. Then this is the BRYR workshop. I've been doing this for the last few weeks, and you might recognise this guy here. He's our cameraman. Yeah, that's Andy. So these are guys out in Ballymun, about 16-year-old or so, and we basically like three kind of workshop sessions with them. I think half of them had never programmed in their lives, and just got them to install Unity, download Fungus, get it going, and I was just blown away with the stuff they were coming up with. It was just fantastic. Like we have ninjas, and these guys had a thing where you took a tour around like spots in Ballymun, being guided by a time-traveling chicken. It was fantastic, you know. So it was really gratifying to be involved in that. So I'm really happy about that. Okay, so I'll talk more about the engine then as well. So it kind of lets you do two things. It lets you visually edit your game world inside the Unity editor, so you can kind of drag around the sprites in the rooms and make up your world. It also allows you to script sequences of commands then to tell your story. So you write like very simple code to build up the kind of sequences of things that will happen in each room. And these are kind of the things that you can do using Fungus. So you can write those kind of text boxes, you can present like multiple choice menus, you can move the camera around, do simple camera effects like fades and things. You can do like similar stuff with sprites and animations. You can fade, or you can trigger Unity animations. You can do like parallax scrolling is very simple. It's just like one component that you drag onto a sprite. The buttons, so like you just drag in a button, and then that whole thing of the buttons kind of hiding automatically when there's text being displayed. That all happens just like without you doing any extra code. There's simple commands for doing music and sound effects, and then for controlling like the gameplay state. So you know, what objects have you picked up, or you know, which doors are open, or which characters are still alive, whatever your game needs. And I guess the other point is this is all layered on top of Unity. So if you know like what you're doing with Unity, you can kind of drop down and do like it interacts very orthogonally, I guess, with Unity. You can still use all the normal Unity features, and then use Fungus when you want it. You know, so like for the music and sound effects, if you want more control than what Fungus gives you, you just go and use the Unity kind of classes directly. This is what it looks like inside the editor. So these are like three of the rooms we just saw in the demo. The green arrows, that's Fungus showing you which rooms are connected to which other rooms, and the green box here is how you control cameras. So we have this idea of a view object, and you basically specify the camera shots in your scene, and then with one line of code you can tell the camera basically to transition from one view to another. So this level is quite visual, and then you kind of write scripts to just kind of control those elements. This gives you a handy preview as well. So the rectangle on the inside is what it's going to look like on, say, an iPad with a 4:3 aspect ratio. And this outer box shows you what it's going to look like on, say, maybe a Surface Pro with a 2:1 aspect ratio. And my background in mobile games, I know an awful lot of the bugs you get back are, this looks weird on a Surface Pro, but it looks fine on an iPad. You know, like it looked fine on my iPad, but it didn't work on a Surface Pro. So that should save a lot of QA time, just that little feature there. Alright, so when you download Fungus, it comes with an example game as well, so you can basically be up and running in a couple of minutes and just modify the example game to start making the game that you want to make. You can start changing the story and changing the sprites and stuff. So this is just an example of a text box, and then that's a multiple choice menu, which is a bit hard to see it there, but it's kind of different colours. And you can have as many options as you want in the menu like that. So this is like the script for doing that menu page. So I'll just run through some of the commands that you can do. Okay, so in Fungus, when you write a script, you only ever write a room script. So each room just has one script, and then all the code for that room goes into that one file. So you're not writing lots of little scripts and attaching them to different objects. So every Fungus class inherits from the room class. That's pretty much the only class in Fungus you need to know about. Every Fungus room has an on-enter method, which gets called every time the player goes into the room. And then just some of the commands, so like header will set the kind of title for the text box. Set page top will make the text render at the top of the screen. Say will write one line of text and then wait for you to press the screen or whatever to continue. And then, wait will wait for 3 seconds before doing the next command. And then this is how you do like a multiple choice menu. So you add the options that you want for your menu, and then you, with that option, and then you call choose, and that'll actually display the menu to the player. And then, so when you do add option, you kind of put the text for the option, and then the method to call whenever the player actually taps that button. And so go to sleep here is just another function down here. So it's quite linear and very straightforward. It's just one thing after another really. And once you've messed around with the examples and done it once or twice, you know, you're just kind of doing the same thing over again. That's a selection of some of the commands that we support. I think we've gone through most of those. Pan to view is how we do like a nice kind of pan transition, nice smooth transition between two views. Start manual pan, that's how you kind of switch to that mode where you can kind of like scroll manually around the world. Yeah, that's fine. And all this stuff is documented on our website. So like I really want to build a community around this thing. So I've set up this website using ning.com, and it's basically it's the kind of go-to place for Fungus, and this is where the community hopefully will hang around and talk to each other. So when you get there, you can kind of download whatever files you need. So there's like one download for Fungus, tutorial videos to get you up and running. That goes from downloading the software, installing it, running the examples, and then runs through just the major features and changing, and like writing text and working with cameras and things like that. Documentation is pretty good. We do a better job in it, but there is documentation in there. Like particularly every command that you can do it's fully documented. And yeah, and then there's the forum. So if you are going to try this out and you get stuck at some point, just put something up in the forum and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Yeah. Cool. What do we do in the future? So I'm running a free workshop on Fungus in Cavalier's office up in Bagot Street on the 29th of April at 6 o'clock. If you're interested in going, can you talk to me afterwards or later on and just give me your email address so we just kind of keep in touch about it. In terms of new features then, we're going in with the Space Farm game, we're going to go in more of a kind of an interactive comic direction with it and start putting in support for like speech bubbles and like narrator boxes and that kind of thing. Unity GUI's coming out in the summer. Really looking forward to that because the built-in Unity GUI stuff is hideous. It's really bad. So that'll give like artists a lot more control over what the text boxes and other UI bits look like, and it'll also let us do kind of interesting things with like text entry and sliders and checkboxes and stuff like that. Something I want to look at is visual scripting, because like the code, even if it's simple, I know it's a bit of a barrier for some people. So there's things in Unity like Playmaker that you can use to allow visual scripting. I think it's going to work pretty nicely. I just haven't had time to look at it yet. And then there's I'm starting to get like feature requests from different people for things like timed menus. So like when you're making a choice, you have to do it within 10 seconds, or like there's some penalty, and different things like crossfades and things like that. At some point, I want to release the games I'm working on, which would be nice. And then once we get to this point, it's not up on the Unity asset store yet as like an asset that you can download. But I think once I get maybe one game out, at that point I think it'd be the time to release it. I don't want to release it too soon until, and start getting a flood of kind of support queries back from people until the whole thing is like properly stabilized, if you know what I mean. Oh yeah, so that's what the comic-y thing hopefully is going to look like. Concept art, Terry. That's it. So, well, actually, one thing I learned from the Nuclear Throne talk at GDC was you have to ask your audience to do something.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you can go to our Facebook page and like that as soon as you can, that'd be great. So yeah, that's it. Time for questions?
Yeah, so probably a couple questions.
How does open sourcing a significant part of this code base align with like company goals?
Yeah.
Like surely releasing this significant piece of work allows other people to catch up in a certain regard.
Oh, yeah.
Like is it okay for a company perspective to just let the code go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. Well, we think it is. But there's different strategies you could take, right? So, like, the sensible thing to do here is to take this bit of code, put it up in the Unity Asset Store and charge $10 for it, and then to use that to fund our development, right? That's probably the sensible thing, but it's also short-term thinking. We see more long-term value, I guess, in using this to build a strong community around our company and a fan base, and I'm glad you're nodding.
I mean, Prescott is exactly like that.
Yeah.
Prescott, which is also a piece of code to help other developers.
Yeah.
It's free. It actually helps really, really well in establishing a community. Also, I mean, the indie scene is interesting in that it seems that giving back more than you take from the scene will always help you. So this is great. This is amazing.
Cool.
I love it.
On that, like, so you mentioned discoverability earlier on. Like, it's no good having the most fantastic game in the world if nobody knows it exists, right? And getting people to actually see you is really, really difficult. Like on the app stores, it's almost impossible. You know, like getting Apple featuring might help you for a week or two or something, but after that, you plunge again. So having a thing that you can talk about and a thing that's just constantly generating news about your company, that's very valuable, I think. And I think that's where we see the long-term value in it. Plus, honestly, it's a cool thing to do. So.
Yeah.
A couple of questions. I don't know, it's probably too early to ask, but have you thought about localizing this into other languages that may help to get more exposure? And especially, like I know, for example, in Latin America, and there are a lot of people that will love to have a tool that will help to create games more easily. And yeah, and the other thing is, I know what you were saying, that you were waiting for the tool to be like really stable to be released into the Unity store. I don't know why. This is really a question. It's not like a suggestion, but I've seen a lot of tools being released in Unity stores, and they like the feedback you get from the people in the store also like helps you build the community and helps you make the tool better. So maybe waiting for like too long is not the better idea. Maybe you should like try thinking of releasing it earlier.
Yeah,
just a thought.
You're right. Yeah. I guess. I mean, I released this publicly on GitHub about 2 months ago, and it's been kind of building kind of slowly since then. So we're getting lots of great feedback from people, and I'm getting tweets from people all over the world now about it. And, so it's cool. And GDC, I was talking to a lot of people about it as well. So the word is definitely getting out there. What I guess I'm worried about is like the deluge of support queries that'll come in as soon as you put it up in the asset store, and all my time will be trying to like solve those rather than working on my own games. So, but I think it's really only a few weeks away. We're like with the 404 game, we're trying to do. Like sort of like an episodic approach where like the first episode is only 5 minutes long or something like that. So once we get it to a certain level of quality, I want to release it. And I really want to do that in the next few weeks. As soon as that's out, then I'm happy to put it up in the asset store. But yeah, like I take your point, I don't want to wait like a year before I put this thing around like that. You know, it's sooner the better, really. The thing I'm holding on for, Unity are doing their own localization solution, like a built-in thing. So I'm aware you're spending like, you know, too much time developing something that'll just be replaced by their thing anyway, you know, so kind of want to see that before I tackle localization. But we've definitely got some good strong suggestions from people about how we can tackle it in a nice easy way. So it's definitely on the radar.
How many users do you have at this point? Do you know?
No. Well, I guess the website has had like, you know, maybe 1,000 visits or something so far. In terms of projects being worked on, I don't know. I know some of the ones that people have contacted me about. Like I know the games flat things, the BYRY. People are getting in touch for bits of support and things like that. So I'm kind of gradually finding out what the projects people are doing. But
it might be a good idea to have a way for yourself to see how many people download the game or to see that a game was made in your tool.
Yeah.
Twine does that really smartly in that they always sort of have the same menu structure. So you can sort of tell that it was Twine. Prescott does this funny thing where the bottom credit line where it says Prescott made by is always the same, so I can just set a Google alert. But having an idea of how many people use your tool is really useful.
I'd love to know, yeah.
And also allows you to sort of build around that. If you don't know, another thing that you should absolutely do is make some space on your website where people can show their project after they've created it. Like that also helps. It builds legitimacy for Fungus. It also allows other people to see what is possible and to showcase what they do, and for you to see what people are doing and what might be interesting to work on.
Yeah.
Because in the end, I mean, you can get a million emails from people about what they want. If you can actually see what they're working on, it's a lot easier to decide on direction for something like this.
Like the forum went up last week pretty much, and the traffic is slower like at the moment, but there's been a few posts in it. It's like people have already contributed code. Some of the guys have put up builds of the games that they're working on. And like once we get a little bit of momentum going there, I think we can start talking about having a showcase on there.
I would do it the other way around. Have a showcase so you can get a little bit of momentum.
Okay.
It's there's a lot of times people will say, once we get a bit of momentum, like you want to make sure that it's there before you get that momentum.
Okay, so
instead
get the
of
builds
other
and
way
put them
around.
there now.
Make sure that everything that you need for 1 million people to suddenly find your tool.
Yeah.
Like, if 1 million people suddenly start using your tool, you need to be ready for that.
Yeah.
Because you never know. I mean, if this is a thing that the Twine community jumps on, they have thousands of people all of a sudden like making games in your tool, and if they have nowhere to go with that, they don't build their own community, and that's fine. But it won't be something you can monitor as easily.
Nice. Good tip, yeah.
Hey Chris.
Hello.
I'm a big fan of 404.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I'm not an artist, but I do like to write stuff, and I think I'm funny, but you know, I want a platform to put it somewhere. So I always enjoy comic books that, you know, have you ever seen Gordon Froman, the Half-Life?
Yeah, you've heard of it, yeah.
If somebody had the art there, for example, if your website had the art there, like of maybe 20 or 100 panels using one specific art, and I could just drag and drop and create my own comic.
Yeah.
This is something that animation tools have been doing for the past, say, 5 years. Animate. There's a few of them anyway, and they have all these assets, and anybody can come along. They don't need to have art. They don't have to have any of the programming kind of stuff. And this stuff that you have in a script is quite basic, so anybody can come along and make it. So I think if you had Bambi's idea where you have the showcase and you have like a bunch of art that you could use as template and build your own comic books and then share it with your friends. That'd be really cool. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. A friend of mine suggested something as well where we could have like a community sort of game, you know, like a Creative Commons it, you know, and it's a shared pool of assets or whatever, and then people can take whatever assets they want out or make their own ones, and then just make their own little games out, like based around the same sort of characters, the same sort of world or something, you know. That'd be a great direction. And I think it'd be a real thing for a community to form around as well, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, great idea.
This is really, really cool.
Cool. That's great.
Yeah, that was okay. So cheers for Chris as well.